Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for participating in the present ALDREN final conference. My name is Mathieu Rivallain from CSTB, France. CSTB is a French scientific and technical center for building, which is a private public institute related to the Ministry of Construction and Ministry of Ecological Transition in France. With my colleagues, Olivier Greslou and Jana Bendzalova, I had the pleasure to lead the ALDREN project, and I'm very happy and honored to open the event this morning. ALDREN actually means Alliance for Deep Renovation. ALDREN is a European-funded Horizon 2020 project aiming at establishing the business case for deep renovation in non-residential buildings with a focus on offices and hotels. This is a 3-year program that started in November 2017 that intends to encourage investment and accelerate the movement towards nearly zero energy buildings and nearly zero non-residential building stock across the EU by 2050 to meet Paris Agreement and commitments. An improvement in both the quality and the reliability of building deep renovation operations is expected to be reached through the implementation of ALDREN protocols. We are deeply convinced that it is the right time and scale, European one, to promote and develop protocols, ALDREN protocols, to support the European renovation wave and Green Deal taxonomy. No need with you to recall both the ambitious targets that have been set at European scale in terms of energy consumption and climate change mitigation, and still the very low renovation rate in terms of both volume and energy performance. We have to draw lessons from the past and from our experiences and admit that decision makers, property owners, building stock managers, investors will not renovate buildings for predicted energy savings. To engage the building sector towards deep renovation and net zero energy buildings and renovations, we have to enlarge the vision of deep renovation value, to assess and certify these additional values, and to develop a common language with the deep renovation stakeholders. These are the objectives for ALDREN. To engage the building sector towards deep renovation and NZEB, we have to respond professionals' clear expectations in terms of reliability, comparability, transparency of building energy ratings, promoting European quality benchmark tools based on ISO standards. To engage the building sector towards deep renovation and NZEB, we have to raise confidence, verifying the predicted energy performances. We have to assess the benefits beyond energy performance and include comfort, health, well-being according to a holistic approach. We have to link the deep renovation technical performances with cost, value, and risk analysis. We have to deliver tangible roadmaps for deep renovation and NZEB. Last, we have to develop a common language, understandable and shared among building stakeholders, let's say from the boiler room to the boardroom, and this is the reason for this ALDREN Alliance. Nobody can trigger the building energy renovation alone. The building owners need support from the financial sector, from the professional, etc. The successful implementation of the ambitious EU targets on energy mitigation and climate change require us to tackle these challenges, requires the involvement of the overall implementation chain from the legislative level, where objectives are set, to the implementation on field by qualified professionals. To respond to the previous objectives and challenges, ALDREN has developed a set of complementary step-by-step operational protocols to assess and verify the energy performance, indoor environmental quality, and financial value of buildings before and after energy renovation. 4 standalone modules can be used to produce a set of indicators and recommendations for renovation. They are reported in two dedicated and complementary reporting tools, the ALDREN European Voluntary Certificate and the ALDREN Building Renovation Passport. These outcomes have been worked out with the ALDREN Alliance, which is the keystone to consolidate and articulate the overall ALDREN protocol in a business perspective, all along deep renovation projects development. ALDREN is to offer opportunities to a wide range of stakeholders, property owners through increased reliability, comparability, quality mark, risk and cost reduction, to financial sector through improved predictability of investments, harmonized procedures, to industrials setting a level playing field based on fair competition and technical neutrality, to building professionals increasing skills based on best practice to be used EU-wide. ALDREN market uptake is proposed through different ways here. The ALDREN architecture being modular, it allows to integrate one or more ALDREN protocol in existing voluntary certification schemes, such as BREEAM, ENBEE, PIS, or HQE. ALDREN can also be considered as a standalone assessment and certification scheme that EU member states are free to exploit and develop for the relevant public policies or to transpose the PBD amendments in national regulations. Last but not least, to contribute to this increase in energy retrofit rate and quality, 8 partners have decided to join their efforts to produce the ALDREN protocols, modules, and reporting tools. ALDREN partners represent complementary expertise and positioning. CSTB, DTU, POLIMI are technical and research institutes. Certivea and IVE are 2 French and Spanish building certificates. ENBEE and VERCO are consulting companies. And as you know, REVA is a large professional association gathering more than 120,000 HVAC designers, building service engineers, technicians, experts across the EU. At this stage, I am more than happy to leave the floor to my colleagues who are going to drive you through the ALDREN main outcomes here. Thank you very much and have a very nice conference this morning. Jana Bendzalova from ENBEE in Slovakia is going by now to take control.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will talk about Common European Voluntary Certificate and rating because in One Europe there are on one side common commitments regarding the climate to achieve a carbon neutral building stock, and European money investment is planned in renovation. On the other side, there are different methodologies for assessment the energy performance of buildings of different accuracy and quality, different indicators for benchmark energy performance, and different ambition levels for rating and targets towards climate neutrality, so that it is not sure that common goals will be achieved in reality. There are also several stakeholders who could profit from common comparable European tool. So first of all, owners of non-residential buildings, international brands, for example, of hotels, real estate funds, developers, but also owners generally who are interested in comparable energy performance assessment based on European standards. The European market for professionals able to work European-wide, and industrials who could profit from the level playing field for their products. Banks could refer to ALDREN certificate for green financing, and European financial instruments could use certificate issued before and after renovation for confirmation of achieved savings. ALDREN certificate could also help public authorities in implementation of new aspects required by EPBD amendment. And last but not least, ALDREN certificate could contribute to implementation of EPBD Article 11.9 asking Commission to launch the voluntary common European certification scheme for the energy performance of non-residential buildings. The main principles for harmonization European-wide are common calculation methodology based on European standards, that is the reference methodology in line with EPBD Annex 1, using the hourly calculation step and the climate of building location instead of the national average climate that should lead to the results closer to actual consumption. Common indicators are in line with EPBD and are compliant with the levels, and they are also harmonized as much as possible with existing schemes, BREEAM, DGNB, HQE, and BESS, to enable EVC can be used as an energy module in these schemes. The scale of ALDREN certificate is more ambitious in comparison with several national, and it is able to show also step-by-step renovation towards nearly zero energy building because provides more energy classes between current usual practice and future targets. ALDREN provides also the definition of ALDREN nearly zero energy buildings, that is the target for renovation actions, with more criteria to be achieved. So not only energy class for primary energy is the target, but the requirements are set also for fabrics, for geometry and efficiency of systems. And requirements are also to be fulfilled on new indicator for thermal comfort that is introduced by ALDREN to link energy with indoor air quality categories according to EN standards 16798. The steps required from energy assessors are close to the usual practice, so it means data collection, modeling, calculation of indicators, energy rating of the energy performance on the scale, and issue European Voluntary Certificate. ALDREN Common European Voluntary Certificate is a document for confirmation and benchmark of energy performance and for reporting the main indicators and information related to energy performance of building. It can stand alone and can be issued for new or existing buildings. The content is in line with all requirements on certificates in EPBD Article 11 and consists of several pages. The first page reports together with energy class the main environmental indicators as primary energy, CO2 emissions ratio of renewable energy produced on site or nearby and used in building. And this first page can be also displayed on the place visible for public, and this is why it also highlights if nearly zero energy building is achieved by green version of this certificate. The next pages provide information about produced energy and delivered energy per service, per energy carrier, important for energy cost calculation. To be in line with EPBD, it also provides the recommendations for improvement to nearly zero energy building level and potential energy savings with link to building renovation passport and RenoMap if it is applied. The additional pages can be reported in EVC Plus. One optional page per each ALDREN task is available for gap between measured and calculated energy and for verification of calculation model used for this certificate, for health well-being indicator, and for the financial valuation of recommended investment in improvement together with ALDREN proposed overall sustainability risk indicator. So my colleagues will continue to talk about these indicators.
Jana, thank you very much for driving us through the presentation of this EVC Energy European Voluntary Certificate. At this time, I will pass also the control to Mr. Dr. Robert Cohen from VERCO. who is going to develop here his talk here regarding the gap and how we can close the gap in between calculations and measurements.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Cohen. I work for energy consultants VERCO in the UK. Next slide, please. I want to start by setting out the challenge that we all have with the Energy Performance Certificate, or EPC, that we use for non-domestic buildings. This graph shows the measured energy intensity of about 500 office buildings, which belong to the members of the Better Buildings Partnership, which is an organisation in London in the UK. And it shows the measured energy intensity for buildings with different EPC ratings. And you can see from this graph that the intensity of the median for each Energy Performance Certificate grade does not vary. And it demonstrates that the Energy Performance Certificate grade is a very poor indicator of the actual energy performance of the building. Next slide, please. So the objective for the verification task on the ALDREN project was to set up a system which would allow you to offer a verified EPC. And being a European certificate, it's a verified EVC. And the key parameters that are needed in order to verify the performance of a building between the design predictions according to the EPC and the measured performance of the building is a like-for-like comparison. And this means that you look at the same energy end uses, and that means that you have to put the right metering in place so that you can exclude end uses that are not included. So, for example, IT equipment, servers, and other small power in offices. Services such as cooking, laundry, and swimming pools in hotels. And this leaves just the key EVC end uses: heating, cooling, ventilation, pumps, hot water, and lighting. And the second really important part of a like-for-like comparison is that the modeled and measured energy are using the same boundary conditions over the year of comparison. So the modeled energy needs to use a similar number of occupancy, hours of use, the power loads for equipment, and the climate, so that the boundary conditions in the model are the same as the boundary conditions in your real building. Next slide, please. So the verification task deconstructed this problem and looked at the different stages that we would need to apply in order to achieve a like-for-like comparison. We started with an existing building with a model under standard conditions, which is the normal European approach. We then looked at applying this model under the actual conditions of use and comparing the predictions of the model with measurements from the actual building before renovation. And this allows us to calibrate the model to make sure that the predicted energy is similar to the measured energy. We can then use this calibrated model to agree a list of improvements. And that in itself is an important advantage to this method. And then once the building is renovated, we can predict the performance of the building under actual conditions. We can verify that performance from the measured energy. And if the verification is acceptable, we can say that the performance under standard conditions, which is the green box on the left side labeled number 7, produces a verified EPC. Next slide, please. This is a detailed process to cover this complete journey from before the renovation to after the renovation. And we set out a detailed protocol that people should follow in order to achieve the verified performance certificate. I just want to pick out 3 particular ingredients for success. We need to use much better simulation models when we are predicting the performance. And that model can then be used to help tune the building once it's in operation so that the building actually performs in the same way as the model. We need better metering to be designed for the building and to be installed correctly. And then for intensive monitoring and verification so that we are checking the performance of individual items of plant against their predicted performance. And thirdly, we need much better control of the heating, ventilation and air conditioning systems and the lighting system to ensure that the operation of the building in practice matches exactly how it was intended to operate according to the design. Next slide, please. At the end of all of this process, the protocol that we developed creates a table of values which defines whether the building has achieved the verified performance. And essentially, we have set a target of the measured energy use for each type of end use, like heating, cooling, ventilation, etc. There should be a gap of less than 25% between the measured and the predicted energy use. And that should apply for all the significant end uses. And a significant end use is defined as an end use which contributes at least 10% of the total energy use of the building. And if the energy use of each end use is within that 25% tolerance for all the significant end uses, we will categorize the building as having a verified EVC. Thank you everyone for listening. A very quick run through. I now hand back to Mathieu.
By now, we welcome Pawel Wargocki from DTU. He's going to talk about TEL and awareness raising, health and well-being indicator. Pawel, please, the floor is yours, and just say next, and I will pass.
Okay. Thank you very much. You can hear me, of course. Please confirm, Mathieu. Thank you very much, and good morning to all our attendees. We have more than 70 now, I have checked. So it's really a very nice turn up. Thank you for taking time to learn about the ALDREN project. My name is Pawel Wargocki, and I am Associate Professor at the Technical University of Denmark. DTU stands for the Technical University of Denmark. And I've been doing a research on how indoor environment, particularly ventilation and thermal environment, affects humans, specifically looking at the health aspects, comfort aspects, well-being, and cognitive performance. And this, what I want to present today in the morning, is a new model. We have heard that ALDREN has created a modular concept. And this is a module, the first module that you will learn that does not refer to energy. In a sense, does not talk about energy. I think this module brings back the essence and the focus and the reason why we have buildings. We have buildings to separate us from outdoor and to create the environments in which we thrive, we work, we learn, and we rest. And this module will bring focus on that particular aspect of buildings, not on the aspect of the energy. So traditionally, the energy renovations do not take into account the aspects of indoor environmental quality. So this module was developed so that this aspect is brought back to the focus. So there are 4 main reasons why this module was developed. The first reason is to guarantee that indoor environmental quality is not degraded during renovation. Any renovation or retrofit process may lead to some changes in the indoor environmental quality, and it needs to be taken into account that this process cannot degrade it. Second aspect is there could be also a positive side of the renovation process. As through the renovation process, what can happen is that the indoor environmental quality can be improved, and that can be also documented as an additional benefit of the renovation process, not only benefit that is related to improved energy performance. The third point is, and then that will be connected to the next module, is that improvement of indoor environmental quality may bring additional benefits that are related to improved well-being and comfort and satisfaction, so the value of the building as well as to improved working performance of people in the building. Those benefits can only be quantified if we know the condition of indoor environment in the building. And finally, and probably the most important part, is that EPBD mandates actually that indoor environmental quality is monitored during renovation process. So all those four reasons were fundaments of looking at the aspect of indoor environmental quality in the renovation process. So what we did is, first, we were looking for the frameworks and methods that are currently used to monitor and rate the indoor environmental quality, and we found more than 100 different methods of calculating the of rating indoor environmental quality, and we were not able basically to find a metric for indoor environmental quality that is standard. Therefore, ALDREN has proposed, next slide please, to develop a new framework for rating of indoor environmental quality and a new index. I call it framework because the ALDREN methodology developed actually the entire framework, from developing the index, the parameters supporting index of indoor environmental quality, as well as measuring protocols. I will not have time to speak about all of them, but I will speak about the index. So ALDREN methodology developed the tail index that is used to rate indoor environmental quality, and has actually 5 elements. Letters TAIL that represent different components of indoor environmental quality, and the Roman number in the middle that presents the overall quality of indoor environment. The letters represent different components of indoor environmental quality: thermal environment, acoustic environment, indoor environment, and luminous environment. All of them, they have different quality levels that are represented by 4 colors: green, yellow, red, and orange. And based on the quality of each of the components, we'll then can estimate the quality of the overall environment presented in the center of the index. Next slide, please. So of course, this is a concept. So now we need to have some parameters that define those different components of tail index. So we proposed at the first stage now to measure 12 parameters that can be used to derive the tail index. And for the thermal environment, or T, this is indoor temperature. For acoustic environment, this is noise level or sound pressure. For indoor air quality, these are concentration of carbon dioxide, ventilation rate, concentration of formaldehyde, benzene, PM 2.5 radon, level of indoor relative humidity, and visible mold. And for luminous environment, we propose daylight factor and illuminance factor. 10 of those parameters are measured. 1 is observed, which is mold, and daylight factor actually modeled. Next slide, please. So So how is the indoor environmental quality rated using the ALDREN method? So we developed the framework, and TAIL is an integrated comparative index describing IEQ level in offices and hotels that undergo deep energy renovation and defines or rates the indoor environmental quality before and after renovation. And all IEQ components are integrated. So basically, when you look at TAIL, which is in the right upper corner, you will see that you will know the level of quality of all components of indoor environmental quality and overall quality of indoor environment. And TAIL is based on actual conditions in a building and based on measurements. So there are no arbitrary credits given for assessing the quality of each parameters. TAIL is referring to the major to standards and levels EN 167981 and levels to define the levels of the parameters defining TAIL. TAIL complements other approaches and actually is not using any of the weightings. The quality of indoor environment is determined by the worst quality of each of the component of the indoor environmental quality. TAIL was validated in 20 pilot buildings, and we'll learn about this in the second part of this morning presentation. And we admit and acknowledge that it is fairly crude, but it is expected to increase the interest of investors in IEQ in the process of renovation, looking for additional benefits that are brought by the energy renovation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pawel, to detail TAIL and the TAIL approach. I will pass the floor to Olivier Greslou from CSTB, who is going to introduce you to the ALDREN works on linking sustainability metrics to financial valuation. Olivier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mathieu. Good morning to everybody. So I'm Olivier Greslou, a research project manager at CSTB. I'm in charge of daily management of European and French research projects, so I was involved in the daily management of the ALDREN project. So now we are going to talk about this different topic, quite specific in this project. To introduce it in a nutshell, what I want to say is that the previous modules that we have seen before were focused on the evaluation, assessment, and rating of the building performance in terms of energy, health, and well-being. So clearly, the experts and assessors who would undertake this work are consultancy companies and engineers. The protocol we are talking about now is different because it bridges the gap, the information gap between financial valuers, investors, owners, and energy engineers. So this is a protocol for collaboration between engineers, consultancy, and rather the financial world. So our point here is to propose a methodology to better highlight the impact, positive impact of energy, health, and comfort topics on the sustainability of a building into the financial evaluation of building assets. So how to translate, for instance, in a deep renovation, the increase in the energy performance, the improvement in the comfort in terms of building value. So the context is it's clear that there is a lack of investment to achieve the European targets in terms of energy savings and renovation, and we know that the priority of building owners and real estate companies is rather to improve the building amenities and services rather than improving energy consumption. And the current levels of investment are insufficient. So why is that? One of the reasons, and there are a lot of reasons, but one of the key reasons we wanted to address is that there is a gap between the approach of engineers and the appraisal of financial analysts, their standard practices to assess real estate assets. And this sustainability information that ALDREN is providing through the other modules that you have seen before is not really exploited in multi-year plan provisions, financial valuation. And so this is why we wanted to insist on the fact that there is a need to have a reliable and transparent information sharing between engineers and real estate valuers. So now in more details, what is the approach? So we wanted to create what we call a common language, but to be more precise, it's a protocol for data collection and sharing between engineers and financial analysts. There are two categories of benefits related to energy renovation in terms of, I mean, financial benefits. The direct benefits related to reduction in repair and maintenance costs, for instance, or improvement in the management of the energy systems. And there are indirect benefits who are rather related to the value of the building on the local market and on its obsolescence, or by comparison with future trends in sustainability and in national regulations. So for the two first indicators, renovation cost and obsolescence risk, we have created a method to directly output the value of these indicators from the previous indicators calculated in the other ALDREN modules. And for the other one, it's rather an evaluation of the investment worth of different renovation scenarios. So how would different renovation scenarios translate in terms of changes in the building value? And this has to be undertaken by real estate valuers. So this is important to understand that this process of real estate valuation is done by experts who were not directly in the ALDREN consortium. We had some collaborations, for instance, with Cushman and Wakefield. This is why we will have a presentation about their work at the end of this morning event, because they have to do local market analysis and different tasks that are completely outside the scope of the ALDREN project. To be even more precise, there were three main categories of indicators that we produced in the project. So on the left side, you have the costs and detailed global costs along the life cycle of the building. This is a standard practice for engineers, but we try to provide as many details as possible concerning maintenance costs, replacement costs, running costs. And this was based on a thorough review of international standards, financial standards, and current practices, so that we provide the best practice today. At the middle, there is a risk indicator. I will not focus too much on it today, but it's a qualitative indicator that is used to rate quickly the obsolescence of a building by comparison with future outlooks in terms of local market evolutions, regulations, and increase of importance of sustainability topics for investors. And on the right side, this is rather the field of real estate valuation conducted by real estate valuers, with market analysis and market indicators that must be evaluated through a thorough review of local market conditions. So what we mainly did in the project is that we wanted to compare, to be able to compare different renovation scenarios. We will present in the next presentation the renovation roadmap, in which we have to define renovation packages. So it's a technical analysis to define what would be the best renovation scenario for a given building. So what we do in this protocol is that first we evaluate a business as usual scenario. So what would be the evolution of the building throughout 15 or 20 years using a DCF calculation method with discounted benefits and costs. And we compare this business as usual scenario in which we do not renovate thoroughly the building, but rather replace equipment at the end of life. We compare that with different scenarios that are based on the renovation recommendations, the technical recommendations that are produced by ALDREN assessors. We will present that in more details in the next presentation. And last, just to illustrate further the process, we have seen that we have developed this European Voluntary Certificate. There is also a building relation passport that will be presented by Marta further on this morning. These reporting tools include detailed information about the building, its energy rating and targets, measured performance, health and comfort quality. So this is used as an input in the financial protocol, in which the key point is market data collection on the right side of the slide by real estate valuers, so that they can be able, with this information sharing with us and with their own expertise, to evaluate the investment worth of different renovation scenarios.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olivier. Yeah. I think, yeah, you're done, yeah, with your explanation, and thank you for introducing this very complex issue of connecting, yeah, the sustainability metrics, yeah, to financial valuation issues. I will give the floor to Simon Ligier from CSTB. After discussing with Jana the European Voluntary Certificate and energy ratings, after comparing also prediction and measurements with Robert Cohen, after enlarging the scope to health and well-being with Pawel, after making connection with this final evaluation, we come to the point of building tangible renovation roadmaps and presenting them into passports. First, Simon Ligier from CSTB is going to drive us through the topic of renovation roadmap and how to define nearly zero energy buildings as a target point. And then Marta from POLIMI will also present how ALDREN built a building renovation passport encompassing this roadmap. Simon, you first. Please just say next when you need the next slide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mathieu. Good morning, everyone. I'm Simon Ligier from CSTB. So, yes, a methodology to design renovation roadmaps for non-residential buildings was developed in the ALDREN project, and we called this tool the ALDREN RenoMap. So it's related to requirements in the EPBD, and according to the directive, it should be a tool to support building owners and managers to plan the energy renovation of their buildings. In the ALDREN framework, the RenoMap is part of the Building Renovation Passport. With this tool, we are interested in two different timescales. At short term, it's a tool for decision support for an already decided project in its decision phase. The objective is to design the renovation actions with a multi-criteria approach, but also taking into account a long-term perspective to avoid the lock-in effect, meaning a non-optimized renovation. And at a longer term scale, the objective is to set the project in a global logic with a consistent sequence of works, knowing also the building final potential. So who are concerned by this tool? Of course, it's useful for building managers and owners. And it will be applied either by an ALDREN assessor with a more external approach, or with an internal approach by the design team or project management assistant. Next, please. So here is a description of the main tasks of the methodology. There are two main parts corresponding to two modules in the Excel tool of the RenoMap. The first part concerns the gathering of information, interviews of owner, and building audits to identify and then evaluate all elementary renovation actions corresponding to NZEB compliant level of performance. The second part deals with advanced assessment and the development of the roadmap and all elements for decision support. Next, please. So there are two levels of multi-criteria evaluation to design the RenoMap. At the level of elementary renovation actions, more qualitative criteria allow to prioritize actions and to gather them in primary packages. So these criteria are related to the obsolescence of the components, the owner will, the economic benefit of an action, and the energy performance improvement. We also take into account technical constraints and technical interactions between the renovation actions. Please continue. The identified renovation packages are then evaluated with advanced indicators derived from the ALDREN methodologies presented before by my colleagues. So the energy performance is calculated with building modeling and dynamic building energy simulation software. And also financial and indoor environment quality indicators are also calculated from previously described methodologies for each package presented in the roadmap. Building reference states are also evaluated, meaning the initial building and the fully renovated state. These elements constitute advanced information for decision support and the decision of inclusion of more or less renovation packages in the project. All non-prioritized actions and non-implemented packages are integrated in a longer-term timeline. And next, please. So the main outcomes of this tool are displayed in the Building Renovation Passport Excel tool. And here are some example pictures extracted from the two modules for the RenoMap. The first interesting outcome is the detailed list of elementary renovation actions corresponding to a high level of energy performance. And this initial audit and evaluation work can be reused in also in future projects. Next, please. Yes, another outcome is related to the advanced multi-criteria evaluation, which allow a better knowledge of the building reference states. It is useful to position the project in a global perspective, knowing the current situation and the final potential. So here is presented the dashboard of the RenoMap tool, which presents these states. And finally, please, Mathieu. Next. Strategy rules define primary renovation packages, which are sorted and evaluated to support a decision to shape the coming project. And remaining actions constitute the long-term timeline for future projects. So the RenoMap integrates the different ALDREN developments, all the ALDREN modules, and it's a framework to include long-term perspective in the decision process of a renovation project, and to capitalize information also for future actions. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you very much, Simon, for detailing the approach on the renovation roadmap. And by now, we welcome Marta Sesana from POLIMI, Polytechnico di Milano, who is going to explain us how she proposed and how ALDREN proposed to set a building renovation passport encompassing the renovation roadmap, presented by Simon, and the building logbook. Marta, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mathieu. Good morning to all. I'm Marta Sesana, and in the last 3 years, it was a pleasure for me to lead with strongly belief and enthusiasm for Politecnico di Milano the activities for the creation of the Building Renovation Passport with, of course, the contribution of all the ALDREN consortium partners. Today I will briefly present, and it's a great opportunity to present you the Building Renovation Passport, its feature, and how it can support the financing and quality of energy efficiency renovation works, describing the build log and the RenoMap, which data can be assessed and used, providing them and protecting them at the same time, even confidentialities. And to share best practice, because then we had the very important final periods of ALDREN to apply all the protocol that my colleague presented to you on real case. So let's start. Data as a better idea. Why? Because having comparable performance data information and indicators on buildings would largely benefit key stakeholders of the construction sector. And that's why ALDREN worked intensively on the creation of the ALDREN Building Renovation Passport, considering it the right instrument and answer to the need of awareness raising, renovation advice, and assistance for owners and investors. But this is just one instrument that needs to be embedded in a broader energy advisory framework. That's even the reason why you have seen before me this morning in this section different presentation of the core independent module which compose the overall ALDREN procedure. Next, please. So which is the context in which the Building Renovation Passport has been introduced. For the first time, as Simon has already said, within the directive in Article 19A, members shall introduce an optional Building Renovation Passport. And in the latest years, many initiatives worldwide, more than 30, are ongoing for the creation of passport, and more than 30% in Europe. But which is the weakness of this initiative? That mainly they cover energy component and few cover other aspects like materials, health, comfort, and so on. And most of them are a nature of certification and they report not feasible recommendation. So next. That's why ALDREN decide to fix 3 clear objectives. First of all, to be 2050 ready. Now is the time to work to boost really energy renovation under the Renovation Wave initiative, avoiding the lock-ins and improving at the same time not only comfort but also health and well-being. And so how? Reaching the data challenge. It's the time to have definitely now a common language, storage in a centralized place to favor communication between stakeholders. How to do that? To render all this kind of information in a unique place. The ALDREN BRP becoming a comparable and reliable instrument all over Europe and defining a feasible instrument that is the roadmap that Simon presented to you, nearly zero energy building. The next. So in this table, you can see summarized the main success factor of the BRP, on which we compose the whole process. I would remark only 3 of these aspects. First of all, the dual feature on which we strongly believe for the passport, not only the digital version, but even the paper. Why in this era of digitalization we thought about paper? Because we need to reach all the target people and to have not only the professional that understand the awareness on the current state of the building, but even the normal owner. And how to do that? To make in an harmonized way. We work mainly on a specific building typology, the non-residential buildings, but we strongly have even collaboration with other initiatives on residential one, and we strongly believe, and it will be auspicable in future, being modular, our structure, to integrate even dedicated indicators for the residential one. And as I said, third, we gave so high importance to relationship between the ALDREN auditor and the owner or investor. Next. So the core concept on which the Building Renovation Passport is composed is that consists in dual elements, the building logbook and the renovation roadmap. Before me this morning, the 4 core independent model, energy rating and target, energy verification, comfort and well-being, cost, value and risk, has been already presented. These 4, plus the building picture and the documentation and BIM, these from module 1 and 6 that you can see in the picture, compose the building logbook. Then there are the 2 other modules presented before me by Simon, Elementary Renovation Action and NZEB Roadmap, which compose the Renovation Roadmap. These whole models, let's say stamps, compose the ALDREN journey to reach the NZEB target. That's how we compose the Building Renovation Passport in a unique instrument. The next. And okay, it seems so easy and clear by me and by my words, but physically what we did. At the end, we decided to create a friendly Excel file in which is basically and easily recognizable each module as I said before, by our brand, the stamp, because if we are making a passport, as when you travel abroad, you reach a stamp. So the ALDREN auditor and the owner or investor will decide it together what they want to focus on. So it's not obliged to fulfill all the modules of the building logbook. In this building logbook, you collect all the data and the information that you have, mainly 1 and 6, and all, in all format, even, for example, the digitalized version of some plant drawings or section and so on. Then you can decide for the 4 independent module which apply, energy rating and target plus comfort, for example, fulfill the protocol calculation, and then with the results from these calculation, perform the ALDREN RenoMap. This journey is the whole procedure that ALDREN needs to be fulfilled. What next? We decided that in case of some specific owner, it could be useful and friendly to show only core indicator easily understandable by different kind of person and preparing the paper version of the ALDREN BRP. Now I will show some example and from a building passport created for the pilot in Italy. This was the office building for the Politecnico di Milano. We decided to fulfill only the module 2 and 4 and 7. And so here is the first one, is a sort of cover. We will see how is right now the building picture of the buildings. Next. Then you can see the results before and after renovation. So what is the after renovation? Before the renovation is the current state, and after renovation is considering the application of the all energy renovation action proposed by the RenoMap, which is the target that I will reach, and describing the main key indicators. And then M7, you can see, I'm sorry, it's not easy from here, the main elementary renovation action and the roadmap with a timeline, understanding directly how to reduce energy consumption. So how to conclude the last one? First of all, join us, because we need to go on and test again the ALDREN BRP. And what we encourage you is to contact us in case of further need, because we hope that these ALDREN BRP will remain and go further, maybe with even new feature for even the residential one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marta, for sharing your views on the topic of interest, definitely for many of us at European scale and also at national scale.